There is a blueprint for the Chargers to pull off a big upset against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, and they need Omarion Hampton and their running attack to get it done.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen today. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do you got today?
Big time, primetime matchup tonight against the Eagles. The Chargers are going to have to run the football, and they should have an opportunity to do that with Vidal and the return of Omarion Hampton. And, of course, on the defensive side, do not let Saquon get started. He hasn't had the same type of year that he had last year when he went for 2,000. This is not the same version. Don't let him find that form tonight. And, of course, we finish this up with your bold and game predictions.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that, and a lot of it will have to do with stopping Saquon. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. David, we talked about it a little bit last week, just the Bears kind of laying out the blueprint on the best way to beat the Eagles. And I think even though obviously the Eagles are going to be trying to fix the issues that they showed in that game and have had a little bit of time to do that, it's hard for me to imagine the Chargers winning this game without, with Justin Herbert just playing hero ball and the Chargers rushing attack being totally inept. I just don't see the vision there on how they get the job done if that's the case. And I think when you see the Bears go for 281 yards, that's where it starts for this team. December football, you have to show up and bring the physicality, and they've done that so far in primetime games. It's really a non-negotiable in this one.
Absolutely. The Chargers have to run the football, and they should have a very good opportunity. I mean, not only did the Bears run for 281 on them, they gave up 125 yards the week prior to that. So they are susceptible to getting gashed on the ground. I mean, this defense with the Philadelphia Eagles is very similar in how they run things as the Chargers, right? And, we've seen when the Chargers are able to stop the run and they're able to lean on one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, good things are happening for them. So it's imperative that they are able to dictate what they want to do, and that all starts with running the football and running it efficiently. You can't just stick to the run and it not work. Like, it's time to get medieval. It's time to make sure that you get to those rushing concepts that are going to produce results. And I want to see some explosives in the running game. That's going to be how the Chargers stay ahead of things and they win this game.
Yeah, and there's so much more to just running the football, right? Running to set up the play action, running to protect your offensive line, to be able to stay ahead of the sticks and be able to not have to get into obvious passing situations where we know that even without Jalen Carter, this offensive line can be exposed. Vic Fangio can get up to some of his old tricks because these are two, an offensive and a defensive coordinator very familiar with each other and have worked together with Vic Fangio and Greg Roman. But he knows what Greg Roman wants to do. And I think the big thing here will be getting really creative. I mean, I think you could just see the box score last week against the Bears and say, they just pounded them up front. But really, they just kept them really off balance the entire game. And that is something we saw from Greg Roman last week. I mean, Greg Roman forced to really dip into his bag of tricks last week with, pistol formations, shotgun formations, and all that. He's going to have to do it again this week. And I think as of right now, when we're recording this, we don't know for certain if Justin Herbert is going to play. We are expecting him to play. We're doing this show in expectation that he's playing. And also, it's been reported that Omarion Hampton is expected to play and be activated from injured reserve. So we know all of these things. We have to assume Justin Herbert's going to try to grit it out, and the questionable tag that's officially on his last injury report is mostly just gamesmanship, I have to think, or maybe just giving him as much time as possible. It's hard for me to imagine he misses this game. But I think a lot of things have to get done for the Chargers to run the football well, David, and I think that's why I think it's a big Will Dissly game on Monday Night Football. And that might seem crazy because he's been a healthy scratch for several weeks in a row, but the Chargers are going to be without Tucker Fisk in this game, who is their main blocking tight end. That is the job that Will Dissly was brought in to do. That is what their tight ends coach said was one of the few guys who can own the C gap in the NFL. Whether it's in pass protection, whether it's run blocking, whether it's slipping in a little Will Dissly screen, because say what you want as a receiver, that has always been successful for them. It feels like this is a game that Will Dissly has to come in and bring what Tucker Fisk has been able to do in the games they've run well and kind of take advantage of his opportunity to get back on the field.
Yeah, the curious case of Will Dissly has been an interesting one. I mean, he was one of the first guys that this Harbaugh regime came in and signed and brought into the building to be one of those guys that helped change the culture of how the Chargers play football. And, you know, this year something happened. The fall from grace is something that needs to be studied because we have no idea what happened from him being on the field to him being a healthy scratch week after week after week is something that's very interesting, and there's stuff there we don't know about. But hopefully he takes and makes the most of this opportunity because who knows how long this injury is going to keep Tucker Fisk out, and this is what happens in the NFL, right? Someone goes down, someone steps up, and hopefully Will Dissly can take this opportunity and reclaim that spot as the number one blocking tight end on this team. And I think that, you know, you talked about the protection, that goes into my key, which is protect Justin Herbert by all means necessary. Quick passing game, max protection, the screen passes, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. You know, and everyone else knows, Justin Herbert just had surgery a few days ago. So you have to do every single thing in your power to try to keep everyone away from Justin Herbert and keep him protected, because it's not just about this game. It's about this month of December. This is make or break. This is where you go win your spot in the playoffs or you lose it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, one of my keys here is just the offensive line has to just give Justin Herbert a fighting chance. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. They don't have to pitch a shutout. They just have to give him a chance. And with no Jalen Carter, obviously the chances of that goes up. But we talked about it last week. They still have animals all over the place that can get after the quarterback and other guys, you know, 30, 40, 50 plus pressures that are going to be out there trying to chase down Justin Herbert, including Jalen Phillips, who was the guy who Justin Herbert shook off to go win the game against the Miami Dolphins. But we've already seen that guy give this Chargers offensive line fits. So it is an Eagles defense that ranks 25th in sacks. But as we saw in the Jacksonville Jaguars game, you can't take that for granted.
It doesn't mean much.
It doesn't mean much, especially because, like the Jaguars, they're a team that is much better at getting pressure. They're 9th in pressure rate, and they don't blitz a lot. So I think, to your point, Greg Roman obviously has to, you know, go back to using those heavy personnel packages, getting two tight ends on the field, making them have to match you personnel-wise, and then trying to throw out of that. I think that is what is going to give the Chargers the best chance. Now, how much will Justin Herbert's limitations affect that? That's what, you know, it remains to be seen. But I think it's also up to Greg Roman to be really creative in the passing game as well. We know he can get exotic in the running game, and he's shown it, you know, several games this season. The passing game with the Chargers receivers, I know they have and what their abilities are. I mean, some of the time when these guys aren't getting open, the only real explanation to me is that the other team knows what's coming, and that it's just a very predictable offense, because it's like if guys are, you know, keeping up with Ladd at a high clip, and Ladd's still getting open plenty, but it means the other team knows what's coming. And I just think that, like, if you do that, you're going to get one of those games where you get a few 3-and-outs and you get stagnant offensively and you go a quarter or a half without scoring. This defense has the possibility to do that. It's up to Greg Roman to find the best way to protect Justin Herbert, who is probably already going to have trust issues behind that offensive line with the injury that he's dealing with, right? They have to do that. If they can protect him, I think he'll do a good job of taking care of the football, and he has to do better with that. But, like, the offensive line has to give him a chance. If they don't, it's going to be a really long night for the Chargers. But I think they're going to at least come out, you know, prepared for this game and with the right energy, and they need to, especially with the physicality and the run game. But also, on the flip side of that, defensively, not letting Saquon Barkley get going. You cannot be the get-right team. Nick Sirianni is getting involved in the offense. You know they want to get their best offensive player involved more. Chargers have to shut that down and nip that in the bud. And we're going to get into that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on, and if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload a frame with photos before gifting it, which is so great you don't have to even have them do anything. Once it comes out of the box, you can have it already packed with some of their favorite photos and videos and even live pictures, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles, and this is a cheat code for me. It's what both of my parents are getting this Christmas because I have a cute little baby, and loading it with that is a undoubtable great gift, of course, and for a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off their best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to our listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. David, now it's time to get into the defensive keys for success here, and I think even though this guy hasn't had a great season, it doesn't make me feel any better about this matchup tonight, knowing what the Chargers' weaknesses are, and if we were an opposing offense trying to figure out how to attack this Chargers defense, it starts with running the football, just like it does for the Chargers offense. But I do want to tell you guys about something new that's dropping today as you're hearing this. You already live your live team every day with us. Now take it up to another level and go ad-free. We have a new program now called the Everydayer Club where you can basically get ad-free audio podcasts every single day, so you never have to listen to an ad again if you don't want to, but also an exclusive Locked On Chargers member-only Discord channel. That's what I'm really excited about. You know, we love the fan mail shows and stuff, but just an extra way for us to get and keep in contact with you guys, all for $5 a month or $50 a year. This show will never change. It'll always be free. When you come to this show, you're always going to get what we always give you. We're just going to do a little bit extra for this, and you can go to lockedonchargers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. It's something we're excited about, getting more involved for you guys, for the people who are really big fans of the show and want some more of it. But, David, it starts with Saquon Barkley. Again, we've talked about it on the crossover. We talked about it a little bit last week. Maybe hasn't been the same guy, but I know that he thinks that he's going to change that on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm sure he absolutely does. And, you know, when you look at some of the performances that the Chargers have had in the run defense department, why wouldn't he be excited about the prospects of going up against this team? Because it's quite simple. If the Chargers don't show up with that requisite violence, toughness, and physicality, then they're going to get ran all over. We've seen that with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the Colts. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a non-starter for them not to show up the right way and ready to meet the moment. Because Saquon Barkley, yeah, he's only had 100-yard rushing game this year, but that dude's special. I mean, yeah. It only takes a few plays to get back in rhythm, and he still is extremely dangerous, and they want him to be the catalyst of the offense. They want him to be the guy that moves things forward for them. The Chargers got to take that away. The Eagles are really struggling on first down, second down with the play calling, with the success rate. It all starts with continuing to bottle up Saquon Barkley. If they do that, then they're going to put themselves in a very good position to pull off a big upset tonight.
And I thought it was really poignant in the crossover, you know, when Louis was talking about just the fact that guys usually don't have the season that Saquon had last year without there being some sort of kind of follow-up slump that comes the next year because of, you know, how many carries and how many touches he had last year, especially going all the way through and playing, you know, 4 extra games and winning the Super Bowl. So he doesn't have it necessarily every week, but he can still catch lightning in a bottle. And that's the thing that you have to be afraid of, because he's only eclipsed 100-yard once, and he's only had 3 80-yard games so far this season. But as a team, the Eagles have 129 rushing yards on average in their 8 wins and only 67 in their losses. Like, it doesn't get much more black and white than that, you know?
Pretty clear.
For the Chargers, in their 8 wins, they've allowed 647 rushing yards in 8 games. And their 4 losses, they've allowed almost as many. 636 rushing yards in 4 losses.
Wow.
And 647 in 8 games that were wins. Like,
that's wild.
This is where this game will get decided, right? It's about making Jalen Hurts throw the ball and beat you with his arms, because that's the other thing, David. Like, they've struggled at times against mobile quarterbacks. So as much as this is about, keeping Saquon Barkley contained, it's also about not letting Jalen Hurts beat you with his legs either.
Yeah, and obviously for Jalen Hurts, notoriously a very, very good and effective rushing quarterback. This year, not really the same type of numbers. He had a couple of games early in the season where he had 60-plus rushing yards, but he has got back to at least providing a little bit of that. He has 3 straight games over 30 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns in his last 3 games. So getting the legs a little bit more involved than he has earlier in the season. And it's not just about running with the football. It's extending plays and, turning into those backyard football moments where the defenses have to cover a little bit longer, and that's when things tend to break down. So you can't have that in this situation. It's cover from whistle to whistle, and it absolutely is respecting Jalen Hurts' rushing ability, because I'm sure he's watched tape on some of these other very mobile quarterbacks that have had success against the Chargers, like, the Jackson Darts of the world, right? So the Chargers need to keep him in check, keep him contained, don't let him extend plays, and that's going to be the recipe for success.
Yeah, and I think it's a Chargers defense specific thing too, right? Just something that they've struggled with. And I think it's just not about giving them any extra chances. Like if you get them into a 2nd and 12 and then you let him pick up 10 with his legs, right? Even if he doesn't get it, now you're putting yourself in a bad spot. So I think making him throw the football more is a key to success for sure. I mean, he only throws the ball 24.8 times in the Eagles' wins so far this year. He throws it 36 times in losses. Obviously, when you're losing, you're throwing the ball more. So it's a little bit skewed, but at the same time, like, that is the recipe for success. And I think when you're talking about trying to heat him up, because he will make some ill-advised throws or at least just rush to get rid of the football, you have to find a way to get pressure, man. And like the Chargers are going up against an offensive line that has struggled a little bit, but I mean, last week they gave up 4 pressures. So it's not like it's some terrible offensive line that's just a sieve. At the same time, you have to look into that interior where all 4 pressures they allowed last week were on the interior, and the week before that interior allowed 10 pressures. So
Thule on the inside is a must, right, Daniel? I mean, he
that's where I was. Yeah, no, that's exactly where I go with
the
it.
Raiders
because
lunch money.
100%. And I mean, you have to get them into those situations, and that's why, stopping Saquon Barkley early is going to be super helpful in that. And plus, we know if they get a 3rd and 4th and short, we know what they're going to do. You're going to go into the tush push mode, right? So like getting situations where you can get Thule to take advantage of, really their biggest weak spot in pass protection, I think is going to be giant.
Yeah, I mean, Thule's a monster. And, one of the best tackles in the last 20 years, Lane Johnson, is not going to be out there, right? So there's going to be a cavernous drop from him to the backup, no matter who they are, because Lane Johnson is in rarefied air. I mean, one of the best right tackles that, we've seen in the game of football in a long, long time. So that's a big red target that the Chargers should be looking to exploit for sure. I think my last one is limit A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's starting to look a little bit more like A.J. Brown with back-to-back games over 100 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He's starting to heat up. So this is going to be a big-time matchup. Who is it going to be? Cam Hart? Tarheeb Still? I mean, some help on the back end for sure. You don't want to make sure that this is one of those guys that you don't let beat you. And, of course, DeVonta Smith on the other side, a lot of speed, a lot of ability. You have to respect both of these wide receivers and their ability. These are going to be the 2 weapons that you're going to want to try to take out of the game plan.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the thing is obviously they're going to get, several deep targets per game, and what they do with that kind of decides what their offense might look like in a week-to-week basis, right? And when those guys convert those opportunities, they look better. But that's the thing about A.J. Brown, back-to-back 100-yard games, they both come in losses. So this is going to be an Eagles team hungry to, take advantage of a big-time matchup in prime time. At the same time, like, I do think it will be up to these Chargers corners to make those 1 or 2 or 3 plays in these one-on-one situations, in these down-the-field situations, if you are committing more resources to the front to try to slow down Saquon Barkley, to be able to go and find ways to make plays, because the Chargers have to make them earn it. Like, the Chargers have allowed 31 explosive plays in their 4 losses this year, which True Media considers passes of 16-plus yards or runs of 12 or more yards. 7.8 per game the Chargers allow in their losses, right? They only allow 4.5 per game in their 8 wins. If you try to make
that tracks,
if you can make this Eagles offense have to nickel and dime their way down the field, right, and keep having to convert third downs that are more than 1 yard, you're going to find success defensively. And I think it's up to the Chargers to have a big game defensively, because I know that Eagles defense is good. This Chargers defense has to find a way to match it. But we still have more to get into, including our bold in our game predictions, including Ladd McConkey, who came through against the Texans, which is one of the best defenses I've ever seen right now. Can he have a big game against the Eagles in a tough matchup? We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part, and that's why GameTime is so clutch, because it finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. Because with GameTime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands, and it makes going to something like the World Cup or even tonight's game in SoFi realistic. And as I've always told you guys, you always have to keep checking in if you're around and have a chance to go to this game tonight. I've seen the tickets were as low as $200 when this game was put up. Now you can get tickets for as low as $140 for this game, and that's with all the fees and everything included, because you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets or World Cup tickets with GameTime. And every match, concert, or event you ever want to go to, download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, GameTime. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different, and that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting, because you're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight. And this is what I love, just because it feels like when you have a chance to watch a game, you can kind of pick up on some trends or what you think is going to eventually happen, especially if a big favorite gets down early. You can capitalize on it in real time. So the Chargers still 2.5-point underdogs going into this one on Monday Night Football, but you could go with other things like Quentin Johnston to score a touchdown at plus 240 for the guy who is third in the league in touchdowns. Only 3 guys with more. But if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, you can do it. Visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. David, we have more to get into, because it's time to get into our bold and our game predictions. And thank you to the everydayers out there for getting your bold predictions in for today's show. There was definitely a certain theme, especially revolving around a certain Omarion Hampton coming back for this game. And you guys were very much in line for what you think the Chargers need to do to win this game. But I think one guy maybe we haven't talked about enough is Ladd McConkey, the Chargers' best wide receiver, who's going to have a really tough matchup with Cooper DeJean on Monday night. Let's hear why a Theo doesn't think that matters.
Daniel, David, a Theo bold prediction for Monday. You can't stop me. You can't hold me. You can't slow me down. My baby Ladd, 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chargers will beat they 31-17. Let's go, baby.
Theo, I love that. I mean, I'm really hoping that happens, but any chance to kind of bring up Ladd, I think, is a great one for this show, because he is a guy that I feel like every week I don't think gets enough targets. And even with a matchup with Cooper DeJean tonight, one of the premier slot corners and just, one of the best corners in the NFL over his first couple seasons, he has a big one. But David, like I said before the break, I've seen Ladd put up 190 plus against the Houston Texans, right, with multiple touchdowns. I've seen him win tough matchups with guys who play really well. The Chargers are going to need him to do that. Like, if he can win that one-on-one matchup with, the Eagles committing more resources to being able to stop the run in this game, that would be huge for the Chargers. I don't think it's 135 yards and 3 touchdowns, but it does feel like the passing game in this game, if they get something like that, a really solid stat line from Ladd, it gives me a great outlook on what their offense can do.
Yeah, I don't care about Cooper DeJean. I don't care about anybody opposite of Ladd McConkey. I feel like his quickness, his burst, his precision, his hands, he can get open against anybody. I truly, firmly believe that. I don't know if I could see 135. That would be awesome. That would be a big time performance. But if we get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 for 70, 75, 80, I think, and a touchdown, that would be a fantastic game and something that would greatly benefit the offense, open things up a little bit, because Keenan, he's going to get his. Third and Keenan is a very real thing, and that's the thing is, yeah, they have a couple of good corners, but they ain't got 4 good corners, so they're going to have to figure out who they want to cover and who the Chargers want to feature on any given play.
I think, as far as like going max protection and making sure those tackles are helped is super important, but I do think spreading them out gives you some more options as well. And I also think it's just about get Ladd in motion, right? Do some things to help your offense out a little bit. It's a little too stagnant for me. Get guys moving around, make it a little bit harder to track where 15 is at any given time to give him every advantage that you possibly can. But it does feel like it could be a game for him down the stretch, like for him ready to kind of say, hey, I'm ready to kind of put the receiving game on my back right now and be the number 1 wide receiver over these final 5 games to give this offense a chance and give the Chargers a chance against the just brutal stretch that lies ahead. But let's get to one or several that you guys had about the Chargers getting Omarion Hampton back this week. We know we are very excited about it, especially just because how much he was heating up before he got hurt against the Washington Commanders. We'll see what the snap, count is for him if he's on a pitch clock, but a lot of you guys think that the combination of Vidal and Hampton is what's going to do it for the Chargers. This is from JM. Hampton and Vidal will combine for over 200 yards rushing. Voodoo says Hampton and Vidal go over 100 scrimmage yards each. Caleb Cruz says Kamani Vidal and Omarion Hampton go for 75 plus yards. Chargers win and dominate time of possession. King Hook says Hampton scores 2 touchdowns. Vidal scores 1. David, a lot of people picking really big games for these 2 running backs. We know how important it is they get it done. What do you think these guys combine for as far as, let's just do rushing yards. How many rushing yards do you think Vidal and Hampton are going to combine for on Monday night?
Yeah, I think I'm obviously very excited to see Omarion Hampton back. I mean, it was a situation where he was ready to break out and he was really hitting his stride, and would have really loved to have seen what the stat line looked like had he had been here for all of the games that he missed. But as far as rushing yards, I feel good. I mean, I think this is a good opportunity for them. I think Omarion Hampton is very excited to get back, but also I think they're probably going to limit his touches a little bit in this game in particular because he's been out for so long. So I think as far as overall rushing yards, I think I'm going to go with the $150. I still feel like it's going to be a good game, but I think it might sway a little more for Kaimani.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do think that'll be a little bit of a pitch count, but I do think having a fresh Omarion Hampton to come in and batter this defense a couple times, like this could be a game, that it is a slugfest and you need guys to just keep go and hammer out those 3 or 4 yards at a time, right? You can do that, and it's a little easier if you have 2 fresh bodies. It also makes it a little easier for one of these guys to pop one, right? And we'll see. Maybe it takes a second for them to kind of get this right now that they have 2 viable options there, right? So it'll be interesting to see how far they go away from the game plans they've had prior to Omarion Hampton coming back. But I do think he changes the dynamic of the offense and deserves to get some snaps in this game to, have a chance to make an impact, because they need as many impact players as they can in this one. But let's get to this one here from Kyle Cooper, who says, hope this isn't bold, but I need a big game from Justin Herbert in the passing game. It has been mid for a while. Need 260 plus from 10 this week. David, what do you think?
I don't know if I need 260 plus from Justin Herbert this week. I mean, I feel like I want to see Justin Herbert throw the ball 25-ish times, 20 to 25 times like they did against the Raiders, because that means that they were able to dominate on the ground and be able to throw when they need to throw and protect Justin a little bit. Against this pass defense, the Eagles are pretty decent there. They like to put a roof over the coverage, not allow a lot of those explosive plays like the Chargers like to do. So I don't know if this is the right game to call for that. I think Vic Fangio in the past has shown that he has a pretty good idea of how to combat Justin Herbert. Now, he hasn't been able to see him against all of these weapons, so I think that might be a little bit of a different story. But if we have an efficient Justin Herbert that doesn't turn the football over and protects the ball and makes the plays that he's supposed to make while the Chargers dominate on the ground, I think that's more of the performance that I would prefer to see.
Yeah, I think it's just about efficiency, right? And taking care of the football. Like if you get 240 yards and a touchdown from Justin Herbert, completing close to, 65-70% of his passes, like that's perfectly fine in a clean game, especially with a broken hand, right, on his non-throwing hand. But Eagles, first in completion percentage against, 8th in yards per attempt allowed by quarterbacks, 11th in drop back EPA for opposing quarterbacks and 4th in passer rating allowed. So it's going to be a tough matchup. I do think there is something that maybe the Chargers throwing early and trying to help out their running game, because you know that they're going to sell out and try to get them out of that as quickly as possible. But I do think this is a tough matchup, and they'll need something like Ladd McConkey to have that kind of day where he's putting up a 100-yard performance if Justin Herbert is going to hit those numbers. But I agree. I don't think you need it, but there is a chance it does come down to that, and they need Justin Herbert to put this game on his right arm. And, over these next 5 games, there's going to be a couple times where, hero mode Justin Herbert's probably going to have to save this team. So, see if it happens. I'm more concerned about ball security and protecting the football. So, let's get into our game predictions here, David. I have a really, really tough time for this one. Man, this feels like a coin flip type of game. I do think the Chargers will show up. Do you think they pull off the big-time upset on Monday Night Football?
I mean, this was a game before the season started that I always had circled as a loss for the Chargers just going into the season. Obviously, things always change, right? You kind of see who the team you're playing is right now as they're currently constructed. And this is not the same Eagles team that I was intimidated by. This isn't the Saquon running for 2,000 with, one of the most ferocious offensive lines and an insane defensive line, right? They're not as intimidating as I thought they were before. So with that being said, I think the Chargers are going to run the ball extremely well tonight, and it's prime time. So there's one thing we know that the Chargers do in prime time in 2025, and that's win. And that ain't going to stop tonight, baby. Chargers pick up a big upset victory. It's going to be 28-20. Chargers win.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, man. And I think it is a big, challenge for this Chargers team that would answer at least some of their questions, because it is the Super Bowl champs. And it is a situation where between last year and this year, outside of the Denver Broncos, the Chargers have not beat a playoff team, right? 0-7 is what their mark is at. I mean, some teams are bouncing in and out of the playoffs right now in the AFC, but either way, it hasn't been good enough against the good teams. And even with the things that you have going against you, you're going to have to prove it to go make a playoff run this year. So I have a really tough time with this one, but as much as, I think that the Eagles could have, just find things and find the switch and turn it on. I think the Chargers are going to be competitive in this game and have a chance in it. And I am actually, I'm torn on it, but I'm going to pick the Chargers to win this one. I think it is a defensive slugfest. I know a lot of people probably think I'm going to pick them to lose. It's just a feeling I have, man. Like I'm putting my faith in Jim Harbaugh here. Like this feels like a chance for them to have a statement win where everyone seems to count them out a little bit because they've won 4 of their last 5.
A lot of people are.
Against
There's a lot of haters
teams
out there.
Not a lot of people picking the Chargers for this one. I'm going to, even if that looks dumb afterwards. And hopefully we'll be back here for a live show after the game tonight to be celebrating maybe their biggest victory of the season, given what the stakes are. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you're back here tonight for the live show. Have your notifications on for that. If you guys want to check out, or if you guys also, we got a lot of everyone telling us about your Spotify Wrapped. We also saw people, shouting out how much they've watched or listened to the show this year. But if you have that and you show us that you are a Spotify Wrapped one of the top listeners, you can secure a free month of that new Everydayer Club, so you don't have to pay anything to get involved and get a part of the Locked On Chargers Discord channel. And again, you can do that at lockedon.supercast.com, but we will drop you a code. You just have to tag the Locked On Podcast Network account on social media to get that ad-free exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. So again, the regular show is not changing. Just want for anyone who wants a little bit extra to have access to something like that. But to make sure you never miss the show, which will never change every day for free, you can do that at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, at Locked On LAC on Twitter, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page where we post the show every day, and subscribe and follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast from. But this is a big one tonight, man. This is a blueprint game in more ways than one, and the Chargers don't have to win this game. But, man, their path gets a lot easier if they do, and it would show us a lot about this team. So hopefully we're here tonight talking about a team we can look at a little bit differently. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.